America is home to 33 million small businesses, the beating heart of communities across the country.
And proof that the American dream is still alive.
This is a show about those dreamers and doers and the communities they serve.
Their real life stories.
Their struggles and successes.
Their grit, determination, and passion.
And the people who fight
to keep their American dream alive.
I'm Alfredo Ortiz.
I'm Elaine Parker.
And it's time for another episode of Main Street Matters,
America's small business megaphone.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Main Street Matters, America's small business megaphone. I'm Elaine Parker.
And I'm Alfredo Ortiz, CEO of Job Careers Network.
Please subscribe to the show at salempodcastnetwork.com or wherever you get your podcasts from. Today, we are joined by Julio Gonzalez. Julio is the founder of the Gonzalez Family Office and serves as the CEO and founder of Engineered Tax Service Incorporated, the country's most extensive specialty tax engineering firm. Julio will also be joining JCN's newly created Board of Advisors for the Southeast region. The Board of Advisors is a network of regional leaders that will help JCN advocate for free market policies, push back against government overreach, and strengthen the economy. Julio, welcome to Main Street Matters, America's small business megaphone.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for all you guys.
Absolutely. So talk to us about your business. You're a small business owner yourself, so you're facing the same challenges that all of the small businesses have been facing under the Biden administration with historic inflation and high energy costs, credit crunch, everything that you could imagine. Tell us about your company, what you're doing, and let's start there.
Yeah, sure. Really, our goal here, and it's been our goal since 2001, is to bring tax equality and to all small business owners. From 1980 to 2001, I worked with Fortune 500 companies and their C-level executives to mitigate tax using the tax code. And I realized in 2001 that small businesses, mid-sized companies that work with local regional accounting firms were never going to have access to those tax credits and incentives and grants, and that they're at a huge disadvantage. And so my journey since 2001 was to educate accounting firms on how to bring these incentives and these credits and grants to their clients. And we work with several thousand accounting firms to help bring that tax equality, help democratize the tax code, and make sure that everyone has access to these incentives as they're granted, and make sure that they use those to grow their GDP, keep their doors open, right? Fight this inflation that's going on today. And the only way to do that really is through some of these tax codes that are hard for them to access, but we're trying to make that accessible to all small business owners across the country.
So you're working directly with CPA firms across the country who are then working with small business owners or large companies probably too, right?
Yeah, trying to educate every accountant one person at a time so that they have access to these resources. We know that we read this all the time, right? The Fortune 500 companies and their C-level executives are paying low taxes. They're taking advantage of this tax incentives. That's why they're doing that, right? Because they have a great grasp and knowledge of the tax code and utilize that to actually grow their companies, grow employment, and actually bring more money to Treasury. But they're utilizing these incentives, and these incentives are really based for everyone in this country: small business owners, the plumbers, the people doing lawn care, doctors, professional services, but they just don't have access to them, right? Because the tax code's not easy. It's difficult. And so we help the CPA firms maneuver through that. Some of these tax credits require engineers, require scientists to get the tax benefits. But ultimately, most accounting firms aren't going to have engineers on staff. They're not going to have research scientists on staff. So we're that back room for them to bring those resources to them, to help them help their clients. Now, Elaine, I would say 100% of our, business came from accounting firms over the past 20 years. And now we're seeing more small businesses go on the internet and try to figure out how to manage the taxes themselves and reach out to us and find out about incentives. So, it's changing a little bit, the landscape, but ultimately, however we can reach them. And that's why we're so excited to be, with JCN to help bring this education and help with regulations and help with everything that these companies are going through. It's so hard to keep the doors open right now. But, us collectively can help them keep them open and allow us to get to a point where we can prosper.
I'm just curious how you've described sort of you being the back room to CPA firms, obviously additional resources. What would you need an engineer for to get a tax credit? Give me an example of that.
Yeah, great question. So when we did the energy tax benefits starting in 2006, the IRS basically said that we measure those energy efficiencies in these buildings or whatever business is involved in energy, and that has to be done by an independent engineer that requires the measurements and certification of that. So that's one great example of energy tax benefits that have to be done by engineers to satisfy the tax code as it is today. Okay. And with scientists, when we're doing research and development taxes and tax credits, and that's a refund of labor, for creating innovation in our country. Well, that innovation is done by pharmaceutical companies or AI companies or technology, defense contractors, right? But to measure that, we have to have scientists and people, experts in those fields. And the problem is, the Fortune 500 are going to have the big four accounting firms that are always going to have those scientists and those research experts, the engineers. But every accounting firm that's not the big four is not going to have those resources. And so it just creates a huge disadvantage to anyone that's in small business. And so I try to eliminate that step for the accounting firms and bring those resources to them, because, half these credits that we have access to or grants need to come through these expertise.
And what is your background? Are you an engineer?
Yeah, engineer, accountant, and one of those unique persons that has expertise in both. But more important, it's I saw the disparity, I saw the disadvantage, I saw that there was never going to be tax equality back in 2001 unless we created an industry where there's a resource to the accounting communities and to the small business owners. And that's really the journey, and the journey continues, and we work hard every day to help support good tax policy, but also bring that tax policy to every American, because every American should be able to, have the same issues that Amazon has, and that's taking advantage of these tax benefits. Because we give these tax benefits because we want people to do this activity in our country. We want to create employment. We want people to invest in real estate and energy and everything else, right? But we give these tax benefits to do so, but we make it almost inaccessible for small businesses.
Okay.
It reminds me a lot during my consumer product goods days. We used to do mail-in rebates, $5 mail-in rebates, but they made it so impossible to actually get the $5, right? It's like you had to do this and submitted this and have this. And so we were counting on the 3% redemption rate. So
it's the same thing. You're right. You're right, Alfredo. It's just like when we did some of the stuff during COVID with, giving small business some access to COVID money.
Right.
I mean, they didn't have access. They didn't have the relationships with the big banks, right?
Yeah.
And then you see some fraudulent activity, and then they shut it down. And by the way, no small businesses never had the access to it because they didn't have the sophistication, the relationships with the banks. And so they're always at a disadvantage, right? Whether it's the PPP or the PPO and all these other tax benefits that come through the code. But, we just got to continue to try to create some equality there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's right. I know there was a lot of challenges, like you said, during the PPP, for example. True that those businesses that didn't have a banking relationship, as desperately as they needed the money, they weren't going to get it. So it's important. I think you've used the term democratize the tax code. I think that's the term you use, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. I think it's important that we do that. Like you said, and even the employment retention tax credits, no small business had the expertise to go through their financials and qualify, based on the sets of parameters to that. And so, whether it's tax credits that involve engineering, scientists, medical experts, whatever that tax benefit is, incentive, we just have to continue to give equal access. Even the grants, the biggest grants in our country, we all pay taxes, and that tax money is set aside, some of it, for grants. And we have grants in our country, billions of dollars in grants for small businesses to take access to, right? But who takes the biggest grants? The Fortune 500, right? They take 90% of all the grant money. And it's because how does a small business owner have time to figure out how to get grants, how to write grants, how to submit them? So we try to create that equality as well.
I remember when I first met you, it was during the initial fight on the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. We were on the front lines trying to amplify voices like yours and your clients and your clients' clients, and get that small business voice out on how important a tax cut was. But you were actually in the trenches helping kind of mold what some of that tax bill looked like. Tell us a little bit about that, because I remember you saying one thing to me. You said that this is the first time in 30 years that we've reformed the tax code. It shouldn't be an every 30-year process. We could almost do it annually.
Yeah, I remember those days. And, it's an interesting story. We had not gotten healthcare done, right? So Trump got elected. We tried to get healthcare done, which would have helped a lot of small businesses. We had the healthcare reform. So we had one strike against us. We had the House and the Senate and the president, all one party, and we still couldn't get healthcare done. And literally, we were, hours away from not getting tax reform done. We would have had two strikes against us when we had everything aligned. Yeah. And what we did then is, we were in the trenches. I was in the trenches 24/7. And ultimately, it came down to Marco Rubio. And basically, he wanted some child tax credits, right? And or he wasn't going to vote for the bill. So I went over to his team and I said, look, and then to the House and, the Ways and Means Committee, and said, look, if we give him the child tax credits and we can, and we can score it, we can eliminate this one thing in the tax bill that you want to pass that has no implications. It's not going to help anyone, right? Because sometimes, you have congressmen and senators that have no idea that a lot of the tax incentives they try to pass, most people are phased out of them because of AMT and restrictions. Right. So I said, take that off, give Rubio his child tax credits, and let's get this passed. And that was it. We were able to finally score it with that one change and get it to pass before Christmas. And what a great Christmas that was for small business owners. And it's like what we're facing today, right? Now those things are phasing out. Now we have a House that passed to kind of reinstate some of those tax incentives that we passed in 2017. We have the Senate looking at it, trying to hold it back because of some child tax, credits. And it's like Groundhog Day. We're at the same place, same 5 years later, and we're working on trying to, hopefully bring some good news to small business owners again soon.
So Julio, I know you woke up nice and early this morning to try to take on exactly the fight you're talking about right now in the Senate, since the bill, passed the House. But it looks like we have some reluctant senators that are poo-pooing on the bill. Can you kind of tell us what the issues are and what the supposed challenges that they're having such angst over?
Yeah, really, it's, it's the same thing it was in 2017, child tax credits and having what they, propose as giveaways in the bill. And, so no bill is ever perfect.
But these are just like a slight addition to what's already on the books, correct?
Yeah, a slight addition. Yeah. And I can tell you that the trade-off is restoring small business mid-sized business companies and even our large companies to have some tax benefit that we've lost. And we've have now, some of these tax benefits that we passed with Trump have expired. They're phasing out, and we're trying to restore those because now we have different situations than we had back then. We have massive inflation, more regulations, much higher global competition. And these countries are smart, right? China, whether it's the UK, they're creating R&D tax expenses that triple the benefits we have. And remember, R&D is just a refund of labor to have innovation in our country. And that innovation is going offshore because, the other countries are taking advantage of our shortfalling tax code system. And so we're losing jobs, we're losing business. Small business owners are having to finance, go to the banks because of this shortfall with high interest rates, higher regulations. It is a nightmare for my small business owners. They're losing contracts. We're losing that advantage. Like this R&D tax credit, it's about trying to even the playing field globally,
right.
And keep jobs, keep innovation. We're having defense contracts go offshore. We're building our government buildings with offshore design firms. That it's just pathetic to see that this is going offshore. That we're losing the jobs, we're losing the technology and innovation, AI, all of that because we can't compete. And so why would we want to put ourselves at this massive disadvantage? And how do we climb out of it? If we ever try to restore it, if we don't do it now.
I was just going to say the immediate depreciation that's expired, and obviously they're trying to extend in this. Some of the stories that we heard from small business owners about what that meant. In particular, we had a manufacturer in Pennsylvania who called that aspect of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act a game changer. The 20% was great. Obviously, he liked that part too. But the immediate expensing was, he calls, a game changer. And I don't understand why this is having so much trouble getting through. And, on the child tax credit, I mean, it's there. It's unfortunate. We have divided government. You have to compromise. But you can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, which deja vu all over again, or Groundhog Day, because that's what we said back then when you had these, few who were like, I don't want that. I don't want the child tax credit. I don't want to support this. And we just said, come on. And we didn't have divided government, right? We had, as you said, we had the House, the Senate, and the White House. And we still were trying to tell our own side, you can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
Elaine, this is the thing. If I spend $10,000 to, for equipment or innovation in my company, I should be able to write that off immediately. Right. I've already spent the cash. I shouldn't have to amortize it over 5 years. What a disadvantage. Why would I do it? Why would I spend the money if I can't expense it today? This is like, it's coming out of my account, and now I have to spread it out over 5 years. It just creates such a roadblock to investing in your business and investing. And now the government is our partner, right? But they're taking 50% of our profits in taxes, and we're trying to just lower our taxes so we can keep our doors open. But we want to be able to immediately expense what we're spending our money on. And the government says, well, just slow it down, spread it out over 5 years. Well, we're paying more taxes, even though we already spent the cash.
Right.
The money's gone. And now they want to take half of our profits to be a partner with us. We need a better partnership.
Well, let me tell you what he did. He's like I said, he's a manufacturer. At the time, I think he had about 150 employees, maybe 130 employees. He doubled the size of his manufacturing facility investment. He expanded the number of employees that he had on staff, so hired more people. He bought new machinery, investment. He gave everybody a pay raise. He increased wages. He gave everybody a bonus. And for the first time since he had started his business more than a decade before, he was able to offer a retirement plan to his employees. That's not just important for the principle of offering a retirement plan for your employees. He's in a rural part of Pennsylvania. It's a small town, Somerset, Pennsylvania. It's actually right near where one of the 9/11 planes went down in Pennsylvania, right near there. And it's a very rural area of Pennsylvania. They are losing their youth out of that town. He's an anchor business that can keep people there and keep the town, flourishing if he can create a business that offers those kinds of benefits that are a lifelong career that people can make a good living and retire on. And here they're taking away those. I've told his story a million times. We've brought him to Congress to tell his story. He's brought employees with him to tell the story. I don't know how much more we can educate them.
How could a politician not understand that? I mean, we're all trying to do the same thing that plant is doing, that facility is doing in Pennsylvania in our own small ways. All my small business owners are trying to do that. But if you can't take a write-off when you spend it and you have to amortize it, it just makes this tax system not work for business. And then what do? How would you even start a business today? Why would you take that risk when you have high regulation, high inflation, and the tax code works against you? I don't know how we do it.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely crazy. So Julio, you've obviously been in the small business world. You have clients and CPAs that have clients in the small business world. From our perspective, huge differences between the Biden administration and the Trump administration. But I'm kind of curious what you're hearing from your clients and from all the small businesses and yourself, actually. How do you see the two contrasting with each other? And I guess which one really is leading to prosperity and which one didn't, I guess. I'm a little bit leading the witness, but.
Yeah, I mean, the Biden administration's been a disaster for small business owners. My small business owners, are having a horrible time dealing with this massive inflation. We didn't have to have inflation. We could have just done our own energy production,
right,
and not, put that burden on our small business owners. Interest rates significantly up higher, and they're stuck with these variable loans that they got that, were low interest. And so now we've put higher interest rates on them, massive inflation, regulation. Now we've expired a lot of these tax cuts from the Trump administration. So, it's not even close. Every small business owner that we work with needs those Trump administration tax cuts restored. We need inflation to go down. We could do that by doing energy production ourselves here in our country. We need the interest rates to, continue to come down instead of go up. I mean, these are three things that every small business owner is struggling with. And then you have the states that are continuing to raise all kinds of taxes against small business owners. Yeah. So it's a federal and state issue. And but we see the benefits here in Florida, where we have a state where you can, successfully have a small business, stay open, have low tax environments, have great incentives. So, it's a big difference even in the States.
But President Biden tells us that the real reason we have inflation, though, is because of greedy corporations and greedflation.
Yeah, greedflation. I mean, I think they're greedy, right? I think that's the real difference. I mean, he wants to support all these green and clean energy tax incentives, and take it from small business owners and have the United States help pay through their taxes for people to get electric cars and electric and clean energy support. And these businesses don't support themselves. They're only open because they get tax incentives. Otherwise, they wouldn't even be here. Like, no business we can't depend on the government to support our business, right? So why are we supporting these businesses that would not otherwise make it?
Yeah.
It's just horrible what he's doing.
No, it's absolutely crazy. But Julio, the good news is that Biden has come to the rescue with his strike force. I'm not sure if you heard about that, but the strike force has been activated. And the best news of all, that the czar that's leading the strike force is none other than the Cookie Monster.
Yeah. Thank God everything he's doing means that hopefully small businesses are going to have a better tomorrow come November. But listen, he continues to make everything worse, but doing that only makes everything hopefully a better future for all of us.
Yeah. Well, I know the president's really happy because nothing goes better with a cookie with ice cream than a cookie.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But even think about it. I mean, how could you do business in New York today when you know that if you apply for a loan there, that New York can basically fine you 100 times, like more than you can do. And by the way, New York can basically just come in and take anyone's tax returns from any CPA company that has a confidentiality agreement and then has to spend millions of dollars to defend why they can't, give the tax returns over because they don't want to be sued. I mean, it's just, and that's the federal government too.
Yeah.
Federal government basically just shutting down businesses.
Yeah, it really is horrible. But anyway, well, Elaine, I know you were going to be asking questions about the new program and the advisor program.
Yeah, so we're very excited that you are working with us on the board of advisors on the Southeast region. I think that it's going to be a fantastic partnership, in really working with small business owners. You've got a great network out there of small business owners that can join us and carry that message, just like we're talking about, that these policies are directly impacting them. So we're just thrilled to have you part of the board and helping us further that mission.
Well, it's an honor for me and for all of us down here. I mean, the one thing we know is that our investment in JCN and the mission is one of the best investments we all can collectively make. It takes a network of like-minded people to make a change. But I will say this, we can make a change. I know that they listen. I know that we have power, and our power can make the difference. And so for us, it's one of the best investments we can make. Thank goodness to Bernie Marcus for starting this organization. We all look up to him and everything he's done for all of us nationwide, and we want to continue that mission and be part of it. And we know it's the most important thing we can do.
No, it really is. And I mean, we've been fortunate and blessed that we've had folks like yourself and others that have backed us up and believe in what we've been doing since day one and have been there since day one. And, now we have a really big megaphone, right? And I think that is why members in Congress, and I know you're up there all the time, and I'm sure you hear people when you bring up Job Creators Network. I think most folks now know of us, hear of us, and actually respect what we're doing because they know that we're the real thing. We're getting, as they say, stuff done. I was going to use another word, but we'll just say stuff done. But it's so important because Julio, I really truly believe that there might have been other organizations out there that say that they're advocating for small businesses, but I have to tell you, from my perspective, no one's doing it the way we are. No one has the megaphone that we have, and I think the small business owners that are members of ours that are alongside with us, are part of the advocate program, they see it, they know it, and that's why I think they're willing to be out there in public and put their names out there because they know that we're going to develop something that's going to make sense for folks and really advocate for the longevity of their businesses.
Yeah, I mean, your results are the proof in the pudding, really, historically. And the advocacy you have and the attention you get from your organization is best in class. And that's why we wanted to align with you guys. And all our small business owners want to invest in this partnership because we know that we can make a difference. It seems tough for small businesses to think that they can ever make a difference, but they can. Yeah. They do listen. And as we come together as a community, our voices will be heard and they'll make a change.
Yeah.
And it can be significant.
Yeah. I love using two figures, right? 33 million and 60 million. Combine those two, that's 93 million people that are involved in small business day in and day out. Either they own a small business, 33 million, or they work for a small business, about 60 million. That's a lot of people, a lot of voices out there. But, the strength has also been our weakness, right? Because we are so individualized, they're individual businesses, right? And to your point, they don't think they can make a difference, but we can bring them all together. We are one heck of a big megaphone.
Yeah, and hopefully we just get bigger and bigger and have a bigger voice,
Yeah.
because that ultimately is going to either save us as small business owners, and if our voice isn't heard, I don't know how we continue another 4 years in the Biden administration under all this regulation, inflation,
Yeah.
and high interest rates, and I just don't see a good path forward without us advocating and making change.
Well, Charlie Gasparino is reporting that his sources are telling him that the Fed is going to do a 1/4 point rate cut in June. So maybe we're starting to go in the right direction from that standpoint, at least.
Yeah, I mean, they should be doing those earlier and more often, certainly. But because we're all hurting so bad. I mean, I have clients that took SBA loans out at a variable rate, prior to all this hyper interest rate raises, and they basically being foreclosed on because those rates at the SBA have tripled and the payments have quadrupled. And how do they afford that? I mean, they're all closing down. Yeah. And why would we as a government put them in a bad situation? The SBA is supposed to be helping them, and it's only hurting them because, we can't even help them there. So it's just the help needs to come fast and furious.
Well, I have to tell you, Julio, I think the one thing, if when January comes around and President Trump's back in office, the one thing I've said to the folks there and to the president is that we actually have to completely rethink the SBA. I think it's even the position right now. It's not even a secretary position. I know it's now a cabinet position. Thank goodness Trump did that. But we actually need to make that a full-fledged secretary position, because the importance of small business needs to be right up there with big business. There's no reason why you need to have a secretary of commerce and then just administrator of small business. That makes no sense.
I agree with you.
And really rethink the entire small. Did you know it actually hasn't been revisited since it was actually created?
I didn't know that, Alfredo, but I know this, that the SBA program is hurting more small businesses right now than helping them because of this interest rate situation and their inability to quickly pivot and, make some immediate changes to help, these high interest rates and these people stuck in high interest rate variable rates with the SBA.
Yeah. Well, a funny little fact, during the Paycheck Protection Program, since the SBA was starting to process or had to do the processing of the applications, the computer systems were so antiquated, right, that they actually had to get retired. I think they were using Cobalt or Pascal or something like that. I mean, that's how old the systems were. They actually had to get retired NASA scientists to come back to actually work on the systems because nobody knew that language anymore.
I know. I mean the inadequacies and in a day and age of AI and imagine if SBA relied on small businesses, their clients, to help them bring in this innovation.
Yeah.
It should be a great partnership,
right?
And hopefully they wake up to that.
Well, Julio, you and I need to fix it. When Trump's back in office.
I can't wait to fix it. I can't wait. Couldn't come fast enough.
Exactly.
But I'll tell you, living here in Palm Beach gives me some hope.
Well, Julio, how can people find out more about your business and the potential tax breaks they might be missing out on?
Yeah, thanks. I mean, engineeredtaxservices.com. We have tax updates all the time on our websites and tax advice for them and their accounting firms to help them. So information about grants as well. So appreciate, anyone that has any questions to reach out, and hopefully we can be a good resource for them.
Okay, that's engineeredservices.com if you're looking to find out more information on tax rebates and incentives that you could be missing out on. Julio, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us on Main Street Matters, America's Small Business Megaphone. I also want to thank everybody for taking the time to listen in today. Main Street Matters is part of the Salem Podcast Network. New episodes debut every Wednesday and Friday. You can subscribe to the show at salempodcastnetwork.com, and we'll be back soon.